Tomorrow, it will be 30 years since the fall of the Berlin Wall on the 9th of November 1989. It was a pivotal event in modern history, marking the end of the Iron Curtain amid a wave of revolutions that left the Soviet-led communist bloc on the brink of collapse and helping to define a new world order.
To commemorate the historic occasion, a video is being launched here, a collaboration between creative minds from Germany and Singapore. And to tell us more about it, we have the German ambassador to Singapore, Dr. Ulrich A Sante, and the creator of the video, Larry Pei. He's creative director of branding and design consultancy at Larry. Thank you both for coming in. Ambassador, I'll come to you first. 1989, where were you and how did you hear the news?
On the 9th of November in 1989, I was in the Ardennes Mountains in Belgium. And you would probably ask me, what did you do there? And that was exactly the question that I asked myself at that time and date as well. We had just joined the German Foreign Service. We were in the School of Diplomacy. And one of the things that we had to do is to improve our French. And they sent us to the Ardennes Mountains, Belgium, French-speaking country, amongst two other languages that they have. And when the news came in on the 9th of November, we said, we're in the wrong place. We got to be in Berlin. And 4 of us decided 2 or 3 weeks later, when all gates had actually already been opened, but the Brandenburg gate was still closed. And people were waiting and screaming, you know, open the gate, open the gate. We decided to actually tell our teacher we didn't feel well I think it was on a Thursday. And she said, I know exactly what you have on your mind. And I said, well, you have no clue whatsoever. The next day we missed. We flew to Berlin. We waited at the gate. We hoped it would open on a Saturday or on the next Sunday. Unfortunately, it did not open. It only opened somewhere during, I think, the mid-December. We came back. We got a stern warning. They told us, you're on probation. You have just joined the service, so you shouldn't be making that sort of mistake. And there we were. We had flown to Berlin. We had shown that our hearts was beating at the right place, but we were at the wrong place at the time.
Yeah. Well, how did you feel though at the time? There must have been mixed emotions. Were you relieved?
Absolutely mixed emotions, obviously, or most of all joy. You have to know my family, from my mother's side, comes from Eastern Germany, so we talked a lot in our family about where they came from and where they spent their summers and what have you. And for over 29 years, almost 30 years, this country was divided, and my mother and my grandmother were not able to go back to their places of birth and origin. So we were very excited. Actually, this was building up in September already. Hungary and Czechoslovakia had opened defenses. Many East Germans were actually going on vacation in those 2 countries and actually slipped through the open borders to Austria at the time. So things were becoming a little bit more tense in Berlin as well. And somewhere 4 days before the 9th of November, actually hundreds of thousands demonstrated on Alexanderplatz. And the government simply probably had to take a decision. And there was a very funny press conference with a gentleman called Schabowski, who was reading a press statement saying, well, these are the new regulations for traveling to Germany. And then somebody asked, what does that mean? Is it now? And he said, well, the way I understand it, it's now, without any further ado. And then they flocked by the thousands to the border, waited because news had not gotten to the border guards yet, and then it opened, and then it all streamed into West Berlin.
It was history was certainly very emotional, and the history was made at that point. Larry, let's bring you in the conversation about this commemorative project. The video, it's called To and Fro, and it features scenes from Berlin and Singapore. Can you tell us more about it, why these scenes were chosen?
Well, the whole idea of the video is very simple and naive in that sense, because I want to blur the lines between the 2 cities. You know, we are more similar than anything else. So I guess a lot of people from Berlin and Singapore, when they looked at the video, somehow they got confused, like, I thought I'm looking at this or that. So it's a very simple idea that it's based on free will. So it's named To and Fro simply because I was inspired by this book I was reading about Berlin Wall. And it's very hard. It's very sad when this couple got married and they couldn't cross over to the other side of the wall for the parents. So there's this crying picture about them holding flowers with the husband and parents just weeping upstairs. And the house is exactly at the wall. So to me, that to and fro, like, we take for granted. We walk here, we walk there. You know, it's something so simple, but if we remove physical and emotional barrier, it's so easy to do that. You know?
Now, I understand with your video as well that you tried to sort of stay away from sort of the theme of nostalgia, which seems almost juxtaposed to looking back on moments like this. Why was that?
Well, it's easier for the next generation to look at this, like my kids, 7 years old to 12 years old, they look at it, wow, it's cool. I love it, to someone that's old enough to remember the past. So that's the ground of how I built this entire thing.
Ambassador, a final question for you. 30 years, of course, have passed since the fall of the wall, this legacy in Germany. Tell us what it signifies today for us and for the world.
I think the most important, or let's put it the other way around. When I talk to politicians here, what I always hear is ASEAN centrality. And I would like to answer your questions with the buzzword European centrality. German unification led to the unification of Europe. And the unification of Europe led to the enlargement of the European Union. Today we are 520 million people, 28 states and nations. One may leave. Let's see what happens on the 12th of December. Don't ask me what my personal opinion on this is, but you can guess. I assume we don't like to lose members, especially when they're so important. But this is how history has placed us at the moment. So EU centrality is very important to us. And I just came from how should I say, a big gala dinner in which we celebrated the entry into force of the free trade agreement. So keeping our countries, ASEAN 10 together, keeping the European Union together, I think is the most important legacy in a time where nationalism and patriotism are popping up again, in a time where might seems to be replacing right, where we have people say me first, where international relations are more a zero-sum game. I think we have to stand up and say very, very loud that we believe in a different sort of order. We believe in a rules-based international order. We believe in international institutions. We believe in free trade. We believe in free market economy. And we have to do that in all levels, political level, economic level, and cultural level. And on the cultural level, I think Larry Pei's project is a fantastic way of translating multilateralism into multiculturalism. I can only ask everybody to look at that video. You can see it on my Twitter account, Germany in SGP, or on our website of the embassy. It's short, it's snappy, it's fast. You start at the beginning seeing Singapore and Berlin, and after 2.5 minutes, it's 3 minutes and something long, you have the feeling Singapore, Berlin, Berlin, Singapore. Is that, you know, it melts into one big city, and that's exactly what we have to do. We have to melt and connect better than in the past.
Well, our viewers, I'm sure, are going to be very excited to watch that one. I certainly want to watch it now, don't you? Thank you very much for coming into the studios. All the best with this commemorative project as well. And thank you for coming in to talk to us on the 30th anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall. We've been speaking to German Ambassador to Singapore, Dr. Ulrich A Sante, and Larry Pei, creator of the collaborative video To and Fro.